Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Savvy Cast. This is Jamie, and I'm thrilled that you're here today, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. Fall is in the air. I have felt it this week, and when fall happens, when I even get the first whiff, I start thinking fall cooking. And since I do love a good dessert, I thought, why don't I share some of my favorite fall desserts? And today I'm exclusively going to talk about apple desserts. So I went to Family Savvy to see how many recipes that I had for apples, and I've got about 8. So I'm going to just run through those today and tell you what I have on the blog, what I like about the recipe, how I tend to serve it or when I tend to make it, because these are all a little bit different. And then I will, of course, tell you the things that you'll need to make all of these items and to make all of your apple cooking and baking more easy breezy. So I just want to start by saying, many of you probably already know this, but all apples are not suitable for cooking. There are some that are better than others. So my rule of thumb is I just try to remember the 3 that are great for cooking and the 3 that I want to avoid if I'm cooking, and the 3 that are great for cooking because they will hold their shape and then they have a good balance of tart and sweet are Granny Smith, Honey Crisp, and Fuji. I almost always do Granny Smith. They're usually the most readily available, and usually in the fall, the prices go down. They're just very readily available. But Granny Smith, Honey Crisp, and Fuji, you cannot go wrong. Now, you want to avoid some of the ones that I think are the best for just eating out of hand. But when you're cooking, you don't want to pull off of the produce shelf Gala, Red Delicious, or Macintosh. Those are not going to hold their shape as well, and you just want to make sure you're getting a good apple for baking or cooking. Okay, one thing that I cannot do without is my apple peeler corer slicer. And if you have ever decided you wanted to make an apple dessert and you try to peel, core, and slice apples yourself after about your second or third apple, if you're like me, you want to pull your hair out. So I want to share my apple peeler core slicer, and then I'll also link to everything I'm mentioning, and I'm also going to link to just a very basic but good one for those of you who will not be able to get mine, which if you want mine, you need a KitchenAid. Now, the good news is if you have a KitchenAid mixer, you don't have to go buy a special standalone apple peeler core slicer, which some of the better ones are a little over 100, and you want to get a good one. Before I got this KitchenAid to go with my stand mixer, I ordered one from Amazon. It was cheap and it came in like 10 pieces. I immediately boxed that up and sent it back. So you want to get a good one because think of how hard that small appliance is having to work because apples are hard and peeling is so precise, and then the core, it's a workhorse. So I discovered when I was looking at my KitchenAid manual that they had an attachment for slicing, peeling, and coring apples. It's like a spiralizer. And let me just tell you, this is wonderful because I'm holding it up for my YouTube people. You can see it just attaches to the end. If you've got a KitchenAid, you know at the very end, you can unscrew this little disc and put attachments. So this is where it goes in, and then you've got all the things that you need to do the work for you. And then I'm going to link to, there's a really good standalone at Williams-Sonoma. And then I also know King Arthur Flour has a good one, but you're going to want one of those if you plan to make a lot of apple desserts, or if you just like to peel a lot and you just don't want to do all the work. So I will link to those, and I'm going to get started with the recipes. I'm going to start with one of my favorites. I have 2 that I am very partial two in this lineup. And the first one is my Skillet Apple Crisp, which I always serve a la mode with ice cream. This is easy and it is delicious. And it is on the healthier or healthy-ish end of the spectrum because instead of a pie crust or a pastry, you are using oats. And now that you can get protein oats, Kodiak makes protein oats, you can have a little protein in there. So that's a great thing. So basically, for this recipe, you're just going to get 3 pounds of apples and then fresh lemon juice, little sugar, butter, flour, brown sugar, oats, cinnamon, and salt. So this is a recipe that you may have everything on hand. Just get your apples and go. This dessert is out of this world. It is sweet, tart. The oats just add a fabulous texture. And if you serve it with ice cream, it really is a company-worthy dessert. It's fabulous. So, Skillet Apple Crisp a la mode. So, I think I'm going to make that one next week. Okay, now this is one that does not require any peeling of apples because it uses canned, and I am not a big canned fruit person. I'm just not. But when you have large scale cooking, small group cooking, a big teen party, or just where you got a lot of people and you need something yummy and sweet, but you need it to be quick and you don't have time to peel apples and you just want it to happen in a hurry, this is a good one. This is Apple Dump Cake Crisp. Okay, so this has all of the cast of characters that you would need for most apple recipes: brown sugar, butter, flour, lemon juice, all your little spices, salt. But this has, instead of real apples that you prep, 2 cans of real Duncan Hines Comstock Simply Apple Pie filling. Now, you can get any apple pie filling you want. That's what I use because, to my knowledge, this Comstock Simply Apple is the closest to the natural. It's less processed. I think it has the natural sugars. So, for what it's worth, it's the better quality canned. And then you're going to also throw in a box of butter golden cake mix. So this is a dump cake. You're dumping in the cake mix and the apples. And then there's butter. There is a little bit of oil. And you could just make a plain dump cake, but I make it a dump cake crisp because I just love texture. So I have added some oats and pecans. So this really is a yummy dessert. And everything doesn't have to be made from scratch. It's a perfectly fine dessert and it's super duper easy. And of course, it's better with ice cream. Okay, so now my first favorite was that Skillet Apple Crisp. My second favorite, and I got this recipe from my cousin Angela Parker. She is in Nashville, and we saw each other at least once a year at family gatherings, and she brought this paper bag apple pie, and everyone went crazy. I went crazy, and she gave me the recipe, and I've been making it ever since, and it is fabulous. Now, you do need a paper bag. So when you're at the grocery, a lot of us mainly get plastic or we have our own bag. You're going to need a paper bag because that's why it's called paper bag apple pie. So this is like a traditional apple pie. So you are going to have a crust. I don't make my own pie crust. I always just use Pillsbury refrigerated. I think it's delicious. But you can make your own, and that's even better. It calls for apples, a pie crust, then the sugar, flour, lemon juice, cinnamon, and then it has a streusel topping, which is just sugar, flour, and butter. It's just streusel is just like a crumbly, buttery, sweet, almost like crumbled up cookie topping. So that's the pie, and once you get it all together, you're going to put the uncooked pie in the paper bag. You're going to wrap it up and you're going to bake it. So basically what the paper bag does is it's creating like a steam oven. So it's just cooking that like in its own little oven. It is delicious and it's easy. So that's one of my favorites. And thank you, Angela, for that one. Speaking of family recipes, Zane's wonderful mom, Mimi, who's fabulous cook, she shared with me her skillet apple cobbler. Now, Mimi is famous for her skillet blackberry cobbler. That is one of the most popular recipes on my blog. She was so gracious to share that with me and let me share it. It's gone viral several times, and I will say nothing tops her blackberry cobbler that's in a skillet, but this apple is a nice second. It has the butter, the sugar, all the ingredients. It does use the pie crust, and you bake this in a cast iron skillet. And I will link to my cast iron skillet. It's a Lodge, it's pre-seasoned. If you don't have a cast iron skillet, they're not expensive and they're wonderful to have. And skillet desserts really are, they're not only, they just bake up better, but it looks neat to see a skillet with a big dessert in it. It just looks, it's novel. Okay, so now I've just got a few more that are, they're not really dessert. I guess they could be dessert. This one, which is streusel baked apples, it is like a healthier way to enjoy apples because there is no crust. So you just have apples, little brown sugar, butter, flour, and some oats. And you basically are making like a crisp with just a few oats and not as much of the butter and the brown sugar. So it's like you're just putting a little of those ingredients. And if you can see on YouTube, the apples are just basically the star of the show and that pretty little pie plate. And they get all their flavor just from their own sweetness and just a little bit of sugar and cinnamon. That's a great way to enjoy them if you're trying to cut your carbs, but you still want the feeling of an apple dessert. Now, the last one I'm going to mention is baked cinnamon apple chips. So the baked cinnamon apples are less a dessert, but more a healthy snack. So you will definitely want to get your spiralizer, leave on that peel where you'll have all that fiber, but of course you want to wash your apples really, really well to make sure the skins are clean. But this is basically apples, a little cinnamon, and a little sugar. And these are in the oven, low 200 degrees for several hours until they're dried. If you have a dehydrator, that will work as well, but I tried a dehydrator long ago and decided it just wasn't for me. And you can easily do this in the oven. So that's great to keep on hand if your kids or grandkids like to knick-knack and they like sweet things. These are really yummy. Okay, those are some of the Family Savvy apple recipes. I hope that maybe one of them comes in handy for some of your fall entertaining. As always, I'm so grateful that you're here, whether you're watching or listening. I would love for you to let me hear from you in the comments. And as always, I would love for you to like, rate, and review. And let me know any topics that you would like to hear me speak about for future episodes. But that is all for today. And until next time, you have a fabulous rest of your day.